Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Hum, a Kansas Hoops podcast via the Field of 68. I'm Sam Lance with Jackson Bezdek, and we're here the day after Selection Sunday, and we're going to be kind of going through Kansas's bracket here, making some picks for just the overall bracket, and then kind of discussing Darren Peterson, who will be coming to Kansas this next weekend. So without further ado, let's do this. Episode 68 of The Hum coming right up next. All right, Bez. Kansas is a 7 seed in the West region. It is the lowest Kansas has ever been on Selection Sunday under Bill Self. Never been lower than a 4 seed, which is just absolutely crazy to think about. But here we are. Kansas is sitting as a 7 seed. Before we get into the matchups, what do you just think of the seed? I think it's pretty spot on. That's what I projected Kansas to be at. And there it is, 7 seed.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there, Sam. I thought maybe that, just because Kansas's region was the last one to come out, and you start off Louisville as an 8 seed, like right away. I'm like, all right, so nobody has any idea what's going on here. Nobody had Louisville as low as an 8 seed. So I thought maybe because Kansas's metrics were pretty good at the end of the day, maybe they could sneak up to a 6 seed, but alas, a 7 seed's where they are. And they looked like a 7 seed for a lot of the year. Their resume against, quad one, quad two wins, all that stuff. Certainly a 7 seed resume. So, this is the grave that they dug. So now we're in it.
Yeah, I put out a tweet the other day that was kind of discussing, the people to avoid for Kansas. And for me, the 10 seed to avoid was uh, was going to be Arkansas, right? And obviously, Kansas gets Arkansas drawn here. Georgia, Vandy, Utah State, Oklahoma were the 10 seeds. I was like, okay, that we'll roll with those. Two of those ended up being, I think three of those ended up being on the 9 line,
Yeah.
actually. Uh,
Yeah.
and then the 2 seeds to avoid for me were St. John's and Alabama. I'd rather have had Tennessee or Michigan State. So basically, the worst of the worst has happened for Kansas here. Kansas obviously getting Arkansas. And then if they win that game, it's going to be likely St. John's, obviously 2-15 there. Uh, Before we kind of get into the matchup, the picks, how about Bez? In one pod, you have Bill Self, John Calipari, and Rick Pitino in Providence, Rhode Island. I know right now where all the national media is going.
Literally. I was literally just about to say that. There's not a single college basketball person who doesn't want to be in Providence this weekend. It's I mean, clearly a little purposeful by the committee, I think, to do that, but that's what people want to see. This is exciting stuff. I laughed when Arkansas popped up because the first thing I thought of was Bill and Cal going at it in the first round of all rounds for them to go at it in the tournament. They get the round of 64, but yeah, it's going to be fun. And then what Patino's done with St. John's this year has been unbelievable. What he's unlocked with Zuby Ejiofor, former Kansas. I mean, we were sad when he left. Had no idea he'd amount to what he's amounting to. Just kind of, he's their guy down low. Who they go everything to, and they're one of the best 8 teams in the country almost all year. They went on a crazy run, but they won the Big East regular season handily. They won the Big East Conference tournament. I watched those games pretty handily. They didn't really have a tough time in any game. Creighton was a good game, but they pulled way away from them down the stretch. So the coaching in Providence this weekend is going to be next level.
You know how much I love the Johnnies,
You
Bez.
do love the
You
Johnny
know
Sam.
how much I love them. I'll just go ahead and spoil one of my Final Four picks right now. It's probably going to be St. John's. I keep getting St. John's Houston and pretty much every single bracket I do.
Hmm.
So I think obviously that Kansas is going to end up getting beat by St. John's if it happens. But let's dive into Arkansas really fast. The thing to know about Arkansas is, whenever Boogie Fland went down with that thumb injury, Arkansas started kind of looking like a team. And John Calipari actually announced he told Seth Greenberg before the bracket even came out that Boogie Fland is going to be back practicing on Sunday and will probably be back for the NCAA tournament. I'm not really sure how that's going to change Arkansas. If it really does, if it makes Arkansas better, Jeff Goodman was on the field of 68 kind of saying, they were worse with Boogie Fland. So who knows how that's going to go? But Bess, what are just your thoughts on Kansas, Arkansas? Obviously, Arkansas played Kansas in an exhibition game without Hunter Dickinson, and Arkansas stomped on Kansas. But what do we think of the matchup now? What is that? Like 4 or 5 months later now.
Right. Definitely out of the 4-10 seeds, the last one I'd want to play. Would rather play Vandy, Utah State, New Mexico. Even though I do like New Mexico a lot, but also this is the one you want to play, right? You want to play Calipari in Arkansas, I feel like. I just feel like, say you draw Utah State as your 10 versus a Calipari Arkansas team who beat you by 30 in the exhibition game. Naturally, human nature, you are going to get more ready for that Arkansas game. I mean, I'm sure Kansas didn't watch Utah State all year, doesn't really know much about them. Yeah, they're good,
Or
but
New
blah blah blah.
Mexico.
Kansas knows Arkansas. Bill knows Cal. Like this is, I think, exactly the draw that Self wanted. And not to jump the gun, but I I've not been talking myself into a Kansas to the Sweet 16. But I do feel like St. John's just they are one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the entire country. So if there's anything that Kansas fans would want to see, I feel like it would be that. St. John's isn't going to light you up. And Kansas is very good at letting teams just light them up this year. It's been a huge problem. See BYU, see Arizona, see Texas Tech. That has been a problem. So, I do think this is exactly what Bill wanted. I Boogie Fland being back, I think him going out, Arkansas improving. I think that's kind of a one too many guys situation that they had because I mean I remember we deep dove them for the exhibition way back when. We're like, this team, they've got dudes all over the place. They're going to be really
I
good.
thought Arkansas was like a Final Four potential team after seeing them in person.
Yeah, I mean that's not even. I definitely thought they were a second weekend team after watching that game, and the season just hasn't kind of panned out that way. But maybe they had too many guys, and it doesn't matter if it was Boogie or somebody else. One guy had to go down, so the other 7 or 8 could really showcase themselves. And I remember Boogie Fland absolutely cooking the Jayhawks in that exhibition game. So
Did
I don't love that he's maybe back because I think he would be the best guard in the game if he plays in it, and if not him, probably John L. Davis. Neither of those guys are Jayhawks, so I'm definitely I'm excited for it. I'm glad it's happening. It's a great matchup for college basketball, but not definitely the hardest 10 seed I think Kansas could have drawn.
Right now, Ken Palm has it at 73-69. Kansas getting the win, 64% chance to win here. I mean, I'm going to be honest, Bez. I don't think Kansas gets past Arkansas. And even if Kansas does get past Arkansas, I really don't see a path getting by St. John's. I mean, St. John's, like, I don't think Kansas could score 50 points.
That's the thing.
Or actually, I think Kansas could score 50, but 60 points against St. John's, that might be a little bit of a stretch. And we've seen kind of down the stretch here that Kansas hasn't been guarding the way that you would think. Their defense now is 11 on Ken Palm. And remember, this was like a top 5, 6 analytical defense for quite a while there. Kansas now dipping down to 11. So I don't know. I'm not feeling great about the Arkansas matchup, and I'm definitely not feeling great about St. John's at all. I think Kansas, I mean, we've known from, the one seed curse or the number one, overall in the AP poll curse and a couple other streaks this year that Kansas is not getting out of the first round. We've known
Yeah,
it, Bez, or sorry, out of the first
first
weekend.
weekend. Yeah.
We've known it. And I don't think anything changes, especially with this bracket. I mean, you look at the path for other 7 seeds. I mean, Marquette, New Mexico, Michigan State, like that's not ideal. St. Mary's, Alabama, or sorry, Vanderbilt, Alabama. Uh, for that one, I mean, I wouldn't want to play that if I'm a seven seed. Utah State, Tennessee is the other one. I think that's probably the best draw for a seven seed, but
Agreed.
this happens. Bill Self kind of mentioned it. Whenever you're a seven seed, whenever you don't have a great regular season, you're going to play a team that's similar to you to start, and then you're
Hmm.
going to play one of the best eight teams in the entire country. So
Hmm.
it
That's
is
what you
what it
get,
is.
though. I mean, that's what you get. I think there might be like St. John's has had such a magical season. You bring the Big East championship back to Madison Square Garden with Rick Pitino at the helm. Just a very, very New York season for them. It's all worked out great. They win both regular season and conference, like I said. I do think there is a potential letdown spot here for the Johnnies. Because say they draw, I mean, they're going to draw Kansas or Arkansas. Before the season, there wouldn't have been any doubt in your mind which teams are more talented. Kansas and Arkansas are on paper way more talented than St. John's. Way more. Just going 1-8. It hasn't played out that way this year, not even close. And that's why coaching matters a whole heck of a lot. Pitino's coaching for a lot more than just this season, and I think we can agree that Bill and Cal are they're not exactly wired the way Patino has been wired specifically this year. This is Patino's best coaching job ever, and he's one of the best coaches ever. All right. So that's why St. John's is a two seed. They're not going to overwhelm you with a bunch of dudes who are awesome or like lottery picks. That's not this team. So if you just take the talent point of it, if you can get by Arkansas, which that game's going to be a slugfight in my opinion. I mean, there's going to be some blows thrown. I think it's going to be close. I don't know who's going to win yet. I haven't really decided, but I'm leaning towards Kansas winning. And dude, I'm just saying, there's a chance St. John's lets down here. Everything's been so perfect for them all year. Very rarely do we get to see the perfect magical season, yada yada. And last year we did with UConn going back to back. So I'm really not going to think that it's going to happen twice now, 2 years in a row, where one team has captured the hearts of America all year long, like St. John's has. Like you love them. I love
No,
them. Their
I'm already
team is fun to
scared
watch.
of having St. John's in my Final Four because it seems to be a very, very sexy pick. And if you know
Exactly.
one thing about March Madness, your
Right.
sexy picks are not the ones that are going to end up hitting for you. It never works out like that. Never does.
It's why, like, I open my phone, a bunch of people are hammering the Michigan -2 line over San Diego because everybody loves UC San Diego so much that it's like, I mean, everybody can't love them and they win and they're only a 2 point dog. So it looks like so that's the Michigan case. That's my case for Kansas here is that St. John's is beloved by everybody. Everything's gone so perfect for them all season, but they can't score. They can't make threes. Worse than Kansas in that regard. So if there's any team that Kansas can sneak up on, Kansas is more talented than St. John's. Correct. Kansas shoots threes better than St. John's. There's not a whole lot of teams you can say that for, Sam, that Kansas shoots threes better than. And St. John's is one of them. Now, that also could, you know, blow up in my face and St. John's wins by 25, which is very likely. But I'm just saying it's not over. There is a path. You get through Arkansas, you at least are going to have a low scoring battle with St. John's that Kansas hasn't won this year. They haven't won those games, but Bill Self has won a lot of those games in his career. He has. And all the smoke about Patino and St. John's used to be about Bill Self and Kansas. They're not getting it anymore. Maybe they have something to say.
All right, let's move up the region a little bit. I've already kind of said that I don't think Kansas is getting out of the first weekend. You said there's a chance, but let's say they do. Let's say Kansas beats Arkansas, beats St. John's. You got Missouri as the sixth seed up there. You got
Hmm.
Drake. You got Texas Tech as the three and UNC Wilmington as the 14. Uh, on pretty much all my brackets, I have Mizzou in the Sweet 16. I think
Good.
Drake is one of those where I think it's a sexy pick, you know.
Hmm.
A lot of people are going to be picking Drake. I just think Mizzou, they're too experienced. They have seniors all over the place. They're too deep. And they have I think Mizzou is probably underseeded a little bit. Probably should be on the
Yeah.
five line.
Yeah.
Maybe even like you could make a case for a potential 4 seed for Mizzou. I know they didn't have the greatest ending of the season, but I think this is like a top 15 team in the entire country. So I'm going to go with Missouri to advance at least to the second round. Don't think Drake's going to beat them. And then this is the one of the upsets that I've actually picked, Bez, because UNC Wilmington, nobody is talking about UNC Wilmington. I feel like so many people have just penciled in Texas Tech to
Hmm.
win this game, and it's the biggest spread. I think I was looking at BetMGM yesterday, and out of all the 314s, like Tech is favored by like 14 and a half or something ridiculous like that. Like that, none of the other 314 matchups were like that. So I think UNC Wilmington sneaks up on Texas Tech,
Right.
who has two people who are coming back from injury and gets them. And then, in this scenario, we're talking about if Kansas advances, it would be Missouri, Kansas Sweet 16 game. How awesome would that be, Bez?
Dude, I'm in for that. I'm totally locked in for that. Honestly, Missouri would obviously be like so awesome. But Drake and Tech, I think, would be like their storylines all over the place, with this little pod here. I like Tech to come out of that. I don't hate the Wilmington pick because I like Wilmington. I think they're frisky. I just think if Tech's fully healthy, I don't know who, like I thought they could have been a 2 seed. That they were the one. If St. John's loses to Creighton, I think Tech is that last 2 seed instead. And dude, I totally have Drake over Missouri. And you're right. It is like one of the sexy picks, right? And it's one that everybody's going with. I don't think Drake, however, is one of those like cute little, oh, look at the mid-major, maybe they'll win a game. Dude, Drake goes for guys' throats. Drake was the team I was worried about would move up to a 10 and Kansas would draw them. I was not excited for that. Drake won 30 games.
Yeah.
This team could make the Sweet 16. They could. They're just, I know they got D2 guys, but look, dude, they got D2 guys who are multi-time national champions. Plus their coach, Ben McCollum, multi-time national champion at the D2 level. These guys know how to win. They won 30 games this year. They blew through their conference. And I think they can beat Missouri. I think they can give Tech problems. And like that's a team I could see making a run, kind of like you like your Wilmington pick there. But I think if Tech's fully healthy and they're dialed in, I think they could make the Final Four out of this one because their styles contrast St. John's so much. You got a lot of offense with Tech, a lot of defense with St. John's. That's a game where like one's got to give, so that could go either way. I really think Tech can make a Final Four push here. Man, Florida's so good though, Sam.
Yeah.
Florida, if you watch
That-
them on Sunday, holy cow, that team is ready to go.
yeah, let's go ahead and move up. The 1 seed here, Florida, that you just mentioned. The 4 seed is Maryland. You got Grand Canyon there at the 13. Shout out Tyon Grant Foster.
Zion, another run.
Yep, former Kansas player. Then you got Memphis, Colorado State, 5-12, and UConn, Oklahoma, the 8-9. First thing that I wanted to say, 4 of the 6 active Division I coaches with national championships are in this West
Mhm.
region. You got Florida, who's probably, I think everybody is saying is kind of the best team right now
Yeah,
heading into March
yeah.
Madness as your number 1 seed. You get St. John's, the story. Probably, I think St. John's probably the team that has like their identity figured out the
The most.
most out
Right.
of any team. That's your 2 seed. Texas Tech, I think, is the best 3 seed.
Yep.
You look around at the other threes. You got Iowa State, you got Wisconsin, you got Kentucky. I'm taking Tech over all of those. And
Same.
then Maryland as your 4 seed. And I'm taking Maryland over A&M. I'm taking Maryland over Arizona, maybe. And I'm
Yep.
definitely taking Maryland over Purdue. Purdue is a dumpster fire right now. Uh, so, all that to say that Kansas, like this West region, is probably the best region out of all of them. You
I
got
totally
Florida,
agree.
you got St. John's, and then you got Tech and Maryland, probably the best 3-4s. And then that's not to mention Missouri out of 6, which is kind of ridiculous. Arkansas is your 10. And then Colorado State, one of the hottest teams in college basketball, is your
Hmm.
12. Grand Canyon's no joke with Bryce Drew. And then UConn, Oklahoma in the 8-9. And this is a ridiculous region, Best, but let's focus on the top. Who do we think comes out of the top? Because now we've talked ourselves into a Kansas Elite Eight run, right? So Kansas is there
Okay.
in the Elite Eight. Who do you think is coming out of the top? Um, I'm gonna go a Florida Maryland Sweet
Same.
16 game, and then probably Florida. I mean, Florida's just too good, dude. I really do think they're
Oh,
too
man.
good.
They have no holes. I think it's Florida Tech down there in the Elite Eight, no matter how I put it, unless I have St. John's over Tech. I really love Maryland. It's a shame that I have to take them out of the Sweet 16 because I wanted to push them really far. They looked awesome. Michigan hits a buzzer beater, knocked them out of the Big Ten tournament, but that game was terrific.
Yep.
Derek Queen was a monster, dude. He had 30, double double. Like, he is such a beast. That Memphis Colorado State game is fascinating. You know, Colorado State's favored by 2.5,
Yeah, I saw.
12 seed.
It's
Never.
because Tyrese Hunter might not play for Memphis. It's still kind of
Right.
up in the air.
And Memphis 5 seed, really? Lenardi has them as an 8-9 all year, and then they plop up to a 5. I don't know about that one. But I don't think Florida has any issues with either UConn or Oklahoma, which I think will be a great game. I think they breeze through that first weekend. If they don't get Maryland, I think they breeze through whoever their opponent is if Maryland, slips up. But I don't think there's a matchup issue for them when they play Maryland. I think they're just fine. I don't, it would be super surprising unless Maryland just gets super hot. But I don't even think
I think
like,
Maryland could get super hot and Florida could still withstand it.
that exactly. Like I'm thinking that with UConn, right? Say UConn wins that first game. Everyone's back-to-back champs going against the 1 seed. Florida better be ready to go. UConn comes out in a 12-0 run. If I'm a Florida fan, I'm not worried. Not even worried one bit. You're going to take care of business. Um, it's Florida's region to lose, even though we have established that it is the hardest region. I
Yeah.
still think, and this is kind of my theme with this whole tournament, I think those final Elite Eight, Final Four games, they're going to be pretty chalky this year, I think. I think it's going to be a lot of ones and twos because, as we've discussed before, the gap between the ones and the top few twos and maybe the top couple threes, then you take the fives, the sixes, the sevens. Like there's a pretty big gap this year. Like there is a gap between Missouri and St. John's. Say they were to match up with each other, right? St. John's hasn't played a super bad game, I don't think. Missouri has the experience, like you said. They also have some games where they just came out super flat. You lose to last game of the year in your senior day, you lose to a completely beat up Kentucky team on your home floor. Like, come on. Like that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. And I think that's why they're a 6 seed more than anything, because they came out and rolled over in that game. But I think it's Florida's region to lose. And I think that's just because of how highly we think of Florida.
Yeah. I think I'm having Florida St. John's in that Elite Eight game. I still haven't decided who I have winning that game officially yet. But yeah, I think Florida comes out of this region. And let's kind of circle back to Kansas. I don't think there's a chance, y'all. I really don't think there's any sort of chance whatsoever. A, that Kansas gets out of the first round, or sorry, the first weekend, or B, that Kansas makes a Final Four. It's not the year. It's just not the year. We've known it's not the year for quite some time, and getting this bracket pretty much just penciled it in. I would be absolutely shocked and happy and surprised if Kansas makes it out of the first weekend. I would be shocked. So I don't know. Darren Peterson plays in Lawrence
About that time, huh?
on
AP.
Saturday, Sunday. If Kansas falls in that first round,
Yeah.
you can get your Kansas basketball fix still with Darren
hmm
Peterson coming to
hmm
Lawrence. I believe they're playing DME Academy and Michael Brown, and then an opportunity to play Fort Erie Academy or a rematch with that Bansta and Utah Prep there. So, final thoughts, Bez, on the West region. And then whenever we come back, we'll do our final four picks, upsets, just for the general bracket.
Um, yeah. I'm not going to pick Kansas to make the Sweet 16, but all I'm saying is don't be surprised you look up at that St. John's game and it's 48-48 with 5 minutes left. There is a very real chance that that can happen. But like you said, there's just unless you avoid Florida and Tech and Maryland, I don't think there's a like there's so much that has to happen. But my final thoughts, I think. just to close this season out, I like this little pod because you get fun matchups. Either like when round one, round two, you get a fun matchup with a storyline that people will tune in for and buy in for. But the teams are also really good. So you're not going to hang your head if you go down. You've been expecting to lose in the first round. I'm talking as a fan perspective. Expecting to lose in the first round the whole season, at least never make it out of the first weekend. No one's thinking that. And even there, like if you get beat by St. John's by 13, great. Like St. John's was awesome this year. They're a wagon right now. No one can stop them. They're just playing super great. They've got all the vibes behind them, and Kansas has negative vibes behind them. And you can't really be upset about that. You head into next year, and like I think if you get a draw that you really
And you
like,
get to go in the portal sooner.
true, true. But like, say you get a draw you really like say you get the Utah State Tennessee, and we start talking ourselves into the Sweet 16 and why Kansas has a real
Setting
shot.
yourself up to be disappointed.
Exactly. So at least in this case, you're kind of going in with the expectation of the season's going to be over in this weekend, and then we can just flush it and move on. And then if it's not, and you go ahead and win two games, and you're in the Sweet 16, and that's what you play the whole season for. So I really see it as a lose-lose here, Sam,
A
or a
little
win-win. Sorry, no lose.
bit. All right. Before we go to the under four, talk about the rest of the bracket, I do want to get your thoughts just really quick. If Kansas Mizzou match up, Kansas wins, right? Kansas is winning
15
that game.
plus. We're crushing that game.
I think so. I
There's
think so.
there is zero chance. I don't care if he has freaking fourth graders from the YMCA. He's not losing to Mizzou twice in a season. Bill Self. It is not. I think he would dig his own grave and crawl in it if he lost to Mizzou twice
He's
in
going
one
to
year.
take the Oklahoma State job if he does it.
He's just going to retire and he's going to take. He's going to go. I say go bald. He's just going to unleash, unwind, and he's going to quit, put his feet up, and completely forget that he ever coached college basketball if he loses to Mizzou twice in a year. It's not happening. It's just not.
It's not. All right, y'all. We'll be back at the under four. Bez and I are going to give our final four picks and then kind of just any upsets that we think, any major, storylines from our brackets coming right up next.
There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Hum and Kansas Hoops podcast. Bez and I, we filled out our brackets. We are going to kind of give our thoughts on just this tournament as a whole. First things first, Final Four, Bez. Yesterday, whenever I first did it, I had Auburn, St. John's, Houston, Oregon. I have switched it up. I now have Michigan State,
Okay.
Florida, Oregon, Houston. I'm still the same on the other side, but I got Michigan State and Florida now. My Elite Eight is A&M, Michigan State. I think kind of the biggest upset with my bracket is I have Creighton over Auburn in the second round.
Yo.
And then I have A&M, UC San Diego. I have A&M beating Creighton. So Texas A&M and Michigan State is that Elite Eight game. And then I have Ole Miss. I have Ole Miss beating Iowa State to play Michigan State in that Sweet 16. So Chris Beard during March Madness. I mean, I'm gonna have to go with the coach there. So I think really that region is kind of my biggest, like stuff happens region besides the East. I've already gone over the West. For me, it's Florida, Maryland, Elite Eight, Sweet 16 with Missouri, St. John's, and then Elite Eight is Florida, St. John's. I think Florida, St. John's pretty destined to meet there. The Midwest region, I'm gonna go over that real quick because I don't care. I didn't care what the bracket was before I was putting Houston in my Final Four, no matter what. Houston
That
is
was that.
making it to the Final Four. There's no doubt in my mind. I
Yep.
think they get Clemson in that Sweet 16 game. And then UCLA. I feel like nobody's talking about UCLA. I feel like they're low-key pretty good. I like the draw. So kind of one of my biggest upsets is UCLA over Tennessee. And then I actually have the winner of Texas Xavier beating not only Illinois, but Kentucky. And then UCLA beating them to set up Houston,
Hmm.
UCLA in my Elite Eight. The East region is kind of where stuff goes down for me as well. I have Duke losing to Oregon in the Sweet 16. I have Akron beating Arizona. I talked myself into an Arizona Final Four run during the Big 12 tournament just to talk myself out and pick Akron. I got VCU over BYU. Uh, and then I have Bama down below, meeting up with Wisconsin. I think that game would be insane. So that brings it to Oregon, Alabama, Elite Eight. And I got the Ducks. Nobody's talking about Dana Altman's bunch. I think he always just makes some sort of crazy run. And I think he's got a good team and a good enough draw to do it. I'm going Oregon Final Four. So again, my Final Four is Oregon, Houston, Michigan State, Florida. I got Houston, Florida in the Natty. And holy crap, that would be an incredible game. I think
Hmm.
Houston, if they get to the national championship, they play the game of their life. 74-70 Houston is your national champion. Take it away, Bez.
I love it.
Bez.
I love it. And on the topic of Bez, let me introduce you to somebody, Sam Lance. Best player in the Ivy League, best defender in the Ivy League for the past 3 years, Yale Bulldog, Bez Mbang.
Okay.
His name is Bez. There is no way I don't have them in my Sweet 16. Let me tell you about this Ivy League tournament, bro. I'm usually, going back to the college years, Sunday morning, 10 a.m., not exactly appointment TV for me. That's usually let me get out of bed and have some water. But now that we've left that lifestyle behind us, I'm locked into the Ivy, baby. I took Yale every single game. Put them in, all right, make a money line parlay, add Yale, add Yale, add Yale. Because my boy Bez is a freaking dog. His name is Bez. How could I not? Yale to the Sweet 16. That's what I love. And they also got this lefty Greek dude who is shooting like 95% from three this year, I'm pretty sure. They're a solid squad. I think I penciled Duke in along with Houston to the Final Four right away. Unless Cooper Flag's not 100%, that obviously changes. But it is
Duke is
because
a
of Cooper
wagon,
Flag.
dude. They're a
I
wagon.
have seen him win so many in person in high school, win tournament games against great teams with not a lot of talent. He's just wired like that, man. He's built like that. He's one of those dudes. And you put a real team behind him. We saw what it did this year, 31-3. I just think he's one of those guys that lives for this type of tournament. I got them in the Final Four. I have them playing BYU actually. And what's funny, I could totally see VCU beating BYU. But I think BYU gets through that game. I don't think Wisconsin slows them down. I don't think Alabama definitely doesn't slow them down. That game might be 150 to 140. And then St. Mary's Vanderbilt doesn't bother me. So I like BYU going to the Elite Eight. They fall to
Not a
Duke.
bad pick. Not a bad
Kind
pick.
of skipped over the South, but I like Michigan State along with you. I think they went out early, not early, semifinals Big Ten tournament. Actually think that's a good thing for them. Izzo gets to regroup, reset. They're going to go on a run. I
And
think
they
they're
get to
super
play pissed
talented.
off. They get to play pissed off.
Play pissed off. I love their draw. Iowa State, along with you, they don't bother me. They don't scare me at all. Midwest, Houston, they're going. I like your Texas Xavier to the Sweet 16. I agree with that. Whoever comes out of that, I can totally see getting to the Sweet 16. Illinois is flat right now. Kentucky's banged up. I love that. Love that little stretch there. But I do think Tennessee Houston ends up being that Elite Eight. And then, like I said, I got Florida and Tech, and I think it's Florida. So I got Michigan State and then 3-1 seeds. So that's pretty lame. But it is what it is, man. That's just,
Hey,
I said it earlier. I think that's just what the type of season is. And yeah, that's what I'm running. I also could see Tech beating Florida, but I also know that that's my Big 12 bias peeking out and my pride there. So I'll just pick
I'll
Florida.
say, Bez, don't be embarrassed about having, the all the ones and the twos there because ESPN, I don't know if you watch their bracket picks or whatever.
Did. They
Like
all did it.
Reese Davis, Jay Williams, Seth Greenberg. I'm forgetting who the other person who filled
They
out
will.
it. No, I said Jay Will.
Oh,
Did I say Jay Billis? I might have said Jay Billis, but I think he might have been the
People
other
know.
person,
You
but
guys know.
every single one of them, their Elite Eight was the ones and
Yep.
twos. Besides, I think Greenberg had Texas Tech,
So 3. So like
the three.
yeah.
So
And then I saw
I'll tell
the
you right now
Barstool guy.
that's not happening. That is not happening.
Right.
There's not going to be all ones and twos in the Elite Eight. That's just not going to happen. It's not.
I saw it on Twitter. I see the Barstool guys. They had like a live show. They're making fun of it as they're watching it, and then they go through and do it, and they're like, "Oh shoot, I have all ones and twos in the Elite Eight." Like I just think the ones and twos separated themselves just for like the general public eye. You watch those top 8 teams, you're like, dude, oh my gosh, they're all so freaking good. Literally can beat anybody, including each other on any given night.
But dude,
And
this bracket is nuts, bro. Like
it's so good. I
I
said,
I did I
so
did a little bracketology. I sent it to you. Louisville Creighton is an 8-9 game, and I had Louisville on the 5 and Creighton on the 6. Right?
I had that as I had Louisville 6, Creighton 7. So you were
Like
in agreement there. That's a crazy 8-9 game,
UConn,
dude.
UConn is
Crazy.
a preseason top 5 team. They're on the 8 line. The preseason number 1 is a 7 seed. There were no bid stealers this year. I think that's pretty important to state. There were no bid stealers at all this
But
year. Colorado
Colorado
State
State,
Colorado State took Boise State's bid, technically.
technically.
That's kind of how I see it there. Nobody in the Mountain West who, was on the bubble, ended up,
Like San Diego
not,
State still made it.
yeah, like there are no like NC States of last year.
Right.
I'm trying to even think of who the other bid sealers were because I know there are a ton. Like these are the best teams in the sport all going at it. It's going to be great, Bez. Like this tournament is going to be insane. It's loaded with the SEC, Big 10, and Big 12, which is the 3 best leagues in the country. Man, I can't wait, man. I cannot wait for this bracket. I don't even care if Kansas loses in the first round or the second round because the quality of basketball that we'll be getting is crazy.
I recall saying this tournament is going to be awesome, and it is such a shame that Kansas isn't really a part of it because this is going to be like, dude, there's solid mid majors, but none of them are like, oh my gosh, this is the best mid major we've ever seen. There's going to be great matchups, and I can't wait for the whole country to fall in love with Bez. It's going to be incredible. Bez is going to the Sweet 16. It's a great time to be alive.
All right, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed our little bracket breakdown. 6:10 Central Time on Thursday. Primetime game for Kansas against Arkansas. It should be a treat. And win or lose, Bez and I will be back on this podcast to break it down because you got the Johnnies likely coming up if Kansas wins, and that would just be absolutely insane appointment television there. So yeah, Bez, March Madness, it's here. I'm ready. I am so ready.
Christmas
I don't think I've
time.
ever had the anticipation on Selection Sunday that I have had this year. Just every team rolling out, I'm like, yeah, I love it. I love it. Come on, give me more. I've never watched more college basketball in my life
That
than
also factors into it, I think.
Yeah.
You've been unbelievably dialed in this year. As I've been pretty good too. We've been in it. We're excited. Let's go. Let's go, Bez. Bez and Bang. Get to know him.
All right, y'all. We will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Rock Chalk.